Stephanie Sterling here, and today I'd like to open up a bit about my notoriously alternative lifestyle, the lifestyle of a 1998 Godzilla pinball table owner. Now, a lot of funny things happen to you when you adopt this lifestyle, when you embrace that change, when you become that new, better you. One of the great side effects of owning a 1998 Godzilla pinball table is people do not assume that you got it because you like pinball, they assume you got it because you like Godzilla. Now, my birthday was recently, as was Christmas, and as a result of my, Matthew Broderick, lot of fish lifestyle, I just get Godzilla shit all the time now. This was from my friend Echo for Christmas. My friend Ollie here got a Godzilla here from one of the films. And then I was at a wrestling show this weekend and a fan came up and gave me this, a 1998 Godzilla Vicious Sipper. So thank you for that. Of course, I've been known to live life to the max. Whenever I sip, I do so viciously, I do so mercilessly, and I do so without apology. This is very serious to me. Fuck the mint on that. Hi, I'm Stephanie Sterling, and when I drink delicious Scorpion Energy, a Creedle and Crabnuts product, there's only one way I like to sip, and that's viciously. I'll tell you what I love about covering the shit-smeared antics of the artificial intelligence scam fad. I love how fucking easy AI's snivelling advocates make the job. Just like with NFTs beforehand and all the blatantly open fraud that came with them, it seems those most invested in generative AI's artistic shortcuts can't help but be unscrupulous to near goofily obvious degrees in every little thing they do. For years, fraud bros have been pushing increasingly dubious magic beans from pretend money to pretend writing departments, and while they carry themselves often with the smug superiority of a suave confident trickster pulling at woolen blinds with a deft flick of the wrist, they're almost always as subtle in their machinations as Pumpkin and Honey Bunny in Pulp Fiction, only marginally less successful.
You're not expecting to get robbed. Not as expected anyway.
These blockchained, metaversal, non-fungibly generative, artificially intelligent get-rich-quick schemes are such naked scams, they're literally incapable of hiding it. Like I said in a previous video, I don't have to speculate about the potential dangers of these tech fads, because every abuse and exploit is already being attempted out in the open. Those of us who warned that NFTs were pure schmuckbait barely had time to draw breath before being proven right by a buffoonish parade of fraudvocates whose nincompoopish naughtiness publicly and hilariously blew up in their faces. When it comes to so-called artificial intelligence, the sneering zealots celebrating it as the end of artists daring to value themselves demonstrate a similar inability to do things in any way other than the shadiest, most troubling way possible. And they did it all so quickly. Despite over a decade of covering the game industry's vices and villainy, I still remain completely amazed at how quickly quadruple capitalists can rush towards the worst case scenarios to make as much money as violently and classlessly as inhumanly possible. I don't have to merely predict that increasingly tight-fisted media executives want to use AI to replace human actors, going so far as to replicate identities for use in perpetuity without royalties because, well, that's literally what they've been openly planning. I don't have to imagine a world in which AI could be used to steal a performer's voice and likeness or to pull off full-bore identity theft, because there's no could about it. I don't have to simply speculate that AI's most aggressive advocates want to make human artists obsolete because they're so fucking talentless and lazy themselves, they think cheapening someone else's ability will make them feel adequate. Okay, I might be adding a little speculation to spice up the motives, but the jealous little shits do regularly pre-celebrate the redundancy of people who can actually draw. Oh, and spoiler, it won't make you feel adequate, darling. You might find therapy more personally beneficial than tearing down the very foundational concept of human creativity. Point is, I couldn't make a slippery slope argument about AI if I tried, because we're already skiing down a mountain made of soap.
He'll protect your loo with his directable jet. Kills all known germs and none survived yet. Big Dom. Big bad dumb.
We need look no further than the latest big controversy to surround so-called artificial intelligence, where a move explicitly marketed and presented to be about safety, trustworthiness and ethical practices when it comes to AI in video games was pulled off in a way that managed to exclude and blindside the very people who needed convincing of those safe, trusty ethics. I know when I want to convince someone that I'm doing a really safe and trustworthy thing for them, I don't tell them about it and hope they don't notice until it's too late to tell me no. Basically, Actors Union SAG-AFTRA went and pulled a stinky Rupert, signing an AI voice agreement that would allow access to performers in a manner that they promise is totes safe, like totally for real. Totes my goats, fanny flaps and scroats, name your top 10 songs from the Mountain Goats. I am sure that when SAG-AFTRA and new bedfellow Replica Studios promised their deal is on the level, it must mean that they had an open and frank discussion with union members first, hearing out concerns ahead of time and making sure that everybody was informed and prepared for the news. Except that's not what they did, obviously. Of course, that's not what they did, no. Despite AI being a very serious concern for creative talent of all types, especially voice actors lately, this deal to access said talent was inked without the knowledge of those most affected by it. And I don't know, call me a dumb, stupid, fucking moron, wanker, dickhead if you want, but I feel that if I were making a decision for other people and the onus was on me to prove that the decision was made with explicit regard to the trust and safety of those people, what I shouldn't do is literally the worst thing to do. But that's just me. What do I know? Despite the deal supposedly being approved of by affected members, those members who'd be most affected say otherwise, with prolific video game actor Steve Bloom arguing, "Nobody in our community approved this that I know of. Games are the bulk of my livelihood and have been for years. Who are you referring to?" So what is this deal? Well, it's a deal involving a tech fraud fad that nobody outside of the investor class really wants, and the shills promoting it know that, so it's been officially presented in the most bland yet somehow sickening way fucking possible. To wit, SAG-AFTRA person talker Fran Drescher said, "Artificial intelligence has dominated the..." I'm not doing that. Has dominated the headlines, and for most performers, the best protection against the unauthorized digital simulation of their voice, likeness and or performance is a SAG-AFTRA contract. We are so happy to partner with Replica Studios because this is a great example of AI being done right. I'll give Fran this, she has an exacting way with words. I really admire how she addresses concerns of actors' voices being replicated by saying SAG's the best protection against unauthorized simulations. For you see, when Replica Studios rips their voices off on the cheap, they'll be authorized to do it, so safe as ours is. On a related note, I've been handling my neighbour Harriet's home insurance. If she allows me to break into her house and take her stuff, then she's not getting fucking robbed that night. A person from the SAG place, who was a man one with a different name called Duncan Crabtree Ireland, said, "With this agreement we have achieved fully informed consent and fair compensation when it comes to the use of our members' voices and performances. We are proud to work with Replica for some reason in leading the way to make it easy for these companies to access SAG-AFTRA's world-renowned talent in an ethical manner that ensures consent and fair compensation for their contributions. This agreement also paves the way for other companies to follow their lead." Oh yes, nothing makes me feel more comfortable than the promise of more companies being involved in something. There's literally never been a problem on God's blasted earth that hasn't been solved by more fucking companies being added to the mix. On a related note, I've given my neighbour on the other side, Ethel, bless her, some free home renovations. Well, I've been pumping salamanders into her air vents. But in fairness, they're paving the way for the scorpions to follow their lead. Now what's funny about this is how, despite everything, I will give them credit for at least trying their hardest to make this shit as above board as possible. They just still couldn't help doing it in the way that makes the whole thing dubious as fuck regardless. This deal does at least factor in performer consent, as they say, which addresses what I often find the most disturbing aspect of any tech bro fraudvocate and their behaviour, the constant, horribly reinforced theme of consent as a disposable inconvenience. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if SAG and Replica hammered out more protections and conditions than one usually expects to see from these weird little tech companies. The trust isn't there from the beginning, and you sure as shit aren't going to get that trust by just going ahead and signing deals that you know are going to be contentious and cause people to worry.
You may have to metaphorically make a deal with the devil. And by devil, I mean robot devil. And by metaphorically, I mean get your coat.
Also, while we are dishing out unbidden PR advice to SAG-AFTRA, nothing convinces me less of your ethics than when you go on at length about how ethical you are without saying much else of substance, as those espousing the virtues of this deal insist on doing. Look, I saw all those hurriedly written ethics statements that a bunch of games websites churned out to appease Gamergate back in the day. Simply repeating the word ethical doesn't make you sound ethical. At best, you sound like a child that learned a new word and doesn't quite know what it means. At worst, you sound sus as all fuck, mate. Fact is, a lot of voice actors have many very good reasons to want AI kept far the fuck away from their craft. It's not like they haven't been under threat of getting their voices stolen before, when NFTs rolled round and this kind of duplication technology became part of the grift. At the very, very best, it's inconsiderate, reckless and insensitive to spring a deal with a company literally called Replica on people who have every reason to feel anxious about getting replicated. If that's ethical, I'm glad to be as famously corrupt as I am. Oh weird, so a lot of us weren't even in the same room when this discussion happened, y'all. Said Autumn, I don't know why I decided to read it that awkwardly, said Autumn Ivy in response to this apparently very safe, very ethical, very positive new deal. But yeah, sure, makes
sense.
It should surprise nobody at SAG-AFTRA or Replica that video game voice actors have a problem with this. You couldn't ask for a clearer picture of a fox being invited into a henhouse. Well, I mean, you could. You get dozens of way more illustrative pictures of a fox in a henhouse up to and including an illustration. But regardless, in this particular picture, independent of its clarity relative to other representations of the same metaphor, AI is the fox, and I guess would the recording booth be the henhouse in this analogy? Or the recording studio overall, because AI has no cause to use a booth. It doesn't have a mouth, microphones are useless to AI. Just another reason why AI is not so amazing, really. I mean, if you asked me where I'd rather get a blowjob, AI or something with lips, I'm gonna go with this guy every time. Take a good look at this and know that this is why AI is never going to replace real human art with a human heart and a human soul. Look at it. It sure as shit can't replace Mario. Just as we don't need to work hard to show how untrustworthy and abusive AI can, will be, and will be going to be, we also don't need to crane our necks too far to find evidence of AI being nowhere near ready to adopt the role of media miracle cure-all that its investors and evangelists desperately want it to be. I mean, here's how well an AI-powered Mario did at the Consumer Electronics Show recently.
What's the best thing for me to eat if I want to eat healthy?
If you want to eat healthy, consider incorporating a variety of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats into your diet. Some nutritious options could be salad with a mix of colorful vegetables, grilled chicken or fish, whole grain pasta or quinoa, and fresh fruit for dessert.
Obviously, this Marionstrosity was not officially endorsed by Nintendo because that would require something to do with AI having an iota of authenticity or sincerity to it, and we sure as shit can't have that. The committers of this Aboramarionation claim it was a proof of concept demo, but I don't know what startling new concept it was proving. It's a poorly animated freak that answers inane questions with a funny robot voice, which as far as I've seen, appears to be literally the one real use AI has. That tech's been demoed. We don't need it demoed again, but that's exactly what we'll get. The tech demoed again. When the Wii had been out for a while and the game industry glommed desperately onto motion controls, because executives are twats who think copying an existing product will copy that product's profits, games entered a horrible period where the same dumb tech was being demonstrated over and over again, often in ways that were far less convenient than just pushing controller buttons like we happily did before the Kinect gave me tennis elbow playing that shitty on-rails Fable game. And it was always the same tech being demoed. I don't need a dozen games making me waggle a controller up and down to get something to jump, just as I don't need a dozen funny voiced robots. Oh, but this one's different because it helps old people because of some reasons, just like the dozen reasons for NFTs that were all complete fucking bullshit. I predict that as AI's investors continue to try and offload their fool's gold, we'll see AI used very similarly to how motion controls were used, or indeed how NFTs were just a couple years ago. The exact same thing repackaged as a new thing, trying to convince us that engaging with its contrivances is far more convenient than just pressing a button. And there will be a lot of poorly animated freaks answering inane questions in funny robot voices. I've seen this routine before. I hated it when it was being used for something way less consequential like dumbass motion controls. I sure as fuck detest it being used for insidious tech, being leveraged over hard-working artists for the profit of corpo parasites who profit entirely too much off the hard work of others already. Last week I said that I expected AI to come up a lot this year. I didn't quite expect it to be so immediate, but the news of SAG-AFTRA's SAG-AFTRA broke almost as soon as my last video was published. We are officially in the gold rush phase of generative AI, where we are going to see a lot more deals sprung on a lot more people in a lot more places. Breathless marketing stooges will tell us how AI is the future of gaming, and some fucking tosser at like Ubisoft or wherever will probably try to tell us we're the ones who really love it and have been asking for it all along. It's going to be shoehorned into places it doesn't need to be, used to try and replace things that already work better than AI could replicate, and it'll all be shady and worrisome as fuck because it's a tech trend, and tech trends are intrinsically, immutably shady and worrisome as fuck. The shady, worrisome fuckers in charge of the game industry will make sure it can't be anything else, because they don't know how to be any other way. And once again, none of this needs to be a prediction, it's just what is. Before we go, one thing I do want to really sort of hammer home is that it doesn't really matter how any one individual contract is written, how any individual agreement goes. They could say, this fucking deal that SAG-AFTRA have done could be the most protected, ethical, safe utilization of AI in the world, but people still don't want to engage with it because there are wider problems. As I've said on this show many times before, shit doesn't happen in a bubble. Everything that happens in this industry relates to other things. Everything has a knock-on effect, and AI demonstrates that really, really effectively because, as I've said many times, because, as I like to say on this show, AI is only so-called artificial intelligence. It's an algorithm, and it's plagiarism on demand. Everything it gets, all of the content that it's repurposed to make so-called original art comes from existing art, and that's why people don't want to engage with any form of AI, no matter how innocuous, no matter how well it's presented. They don't want to feed that beast. They don't want machines to learn from them, to continue to work for others who want to render those creators obsolete. I have said before that I do not intend to be particularly fair or nice when it comes to AI. I'm not really interested even in engaging with it in good faith because it's being used for horrible purposes by horrible people. The slightest bit of engagement with it only encourages it. It's a bit like J.K. Rowling in that way. So fuck AI, thank God for me, and drink delicious scorpion, whatever it is I said it was. I'm not drinking that again. I've gone blind in one eye already.